Have you ever felt it? That strange, painful feeling when someone who clearly loves you slowly disappears from your life. They don't hate you. You can feel that. They don't want to hurt you. You can see that too. But they keep their distance. They pull back when things get close. They go cold right when you thought things were finally warming up. And the worst part? You have no idea why. You replay every conversation. You search for the moment you said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing. But you can't find it. Because the truth is, it wasn't about something you did. It was about something happening inside them. And today, with the help of one of the greatest minds who ever studied the human soul, we are going to understand exactly what that is. Carl Jung spent his life asking one question that most people are afraid to ask. Why do we destroy the very love we want the most? Stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you will not just understand the person who is pulling away from you. You will understand yourself too. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is the place where we take Carl Jung's deep, powerful ideas about the human mind, and we apply them to love, relationships, and everything that happens in the space between two people. No complicated language, no textbook talk, just real, honest, human truth. Now, today's topic is one I get asked about more than almost anything else. People send me messages that say things like, "There's this person. I know they care about me, but every time we get close, they disappear. What is happening?" Or, "I think I'm in love with someone who is in love with me too, but they keep running. And I don't understand why." If that sounds familiar, you are in the right place. Because Carl Jung had a very specific and very profound explanation for this. And it has nothing to do with games or manipulation or someone not being ready. It goes much, much deeper than that. We are going to cover 6 major reasons, rooted in Jungian psychology, for why someone who loves you deeply may be staying away from you. And at the end, I'll tell you what you can do about it. Let's begin. The first reason, and honestly the most important one, is something Carl Jung called the shadow. Now, what is the shadow? In simple terms, the shadow is the part of yourself that you don't want to see. We all have it. It's the emotions you were told not to feel as a child, the parts of your personality that were shamed, punished, or ignored. The version of yourself you decided was too much, too weak, too needy, too angry, and so you buried it. You buried it, but you didn't destroy it. Jung said, "The shadow is everything the person refuses to acknowledge about themselves." And here is where love becomes terrifying. When someone falls deeply in love with you, you become a mirror for them, not just a cute metaphor, a literal psychological mirror. Your presence starts to reflect back to them the parts of themselves they have been hiding. Maybe you are warm and open, and that warmth forces them to feel how cold and closed off they have become. Maybe you are gentle, and that gentleness makes them feel how rough and guarded they have been with themselves all their life. Maybe you love freely, and your free love reminds them of how much love they have locked away inside themselves, unexpressed, waiting. And that feeling is not comfortable. It is confronting. It is like someone turning on a bright light in a room you have been hiding in the dark for years. Your first instinct is not gratitude. Your first instinct is to squint, flinch, and get away from the light. So they distance themselves. Not from you specifically, but from the discomfort of seeing themselves clearly for the first time. Jung said something that changed how I see relationships forever. He said, Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And I want to flip that around for a moment. Everything that moves us about others, everything that draws us in, captivates us, makes us feel something powerful, is also showing us something about ourselves. The person who loves you is drawn to you for reasons they may not fully understand. And sometimes the intensity of that draw scares them, because it means they are feeling things they have suppressed for a very long time. So what do? They step back. They create space. They tell themselves they are being careful. But what is really happening is the shadow is pushing back. The unconscious is protecting itself from being seen. Let me give you an example to make this real. Imagine a man who grew up in a family where emotions were not expressed. His father didn't hug. His mother didn't say, "I love you." Feelings were weakness. Strength meant silence. He grew up. He became successful. He built walls. He meets a woman who is emotionally open. She cries at movies. She says what she feels. She reaches for his hand without thinking about it. And something in him cracks open. He feels things he hasn't felt since he was 6 years old. And it terrifies him. Not because she is doing anything wrong, but because she is making him feel the things he decided as a child were not safe to feel. His shadow, the buried, sensitive, emotional version of himself, is being woken up. And the easiest thing to do, instead of facing that, is to pull away from her. Does that make sense? That is the shadow at work, and the tragedy is, he loves her precisely because of the thing that scares him most about her. Now let's talk about the second reason. Jung introduced another concept that is absolutely crucial here. He called it the persona. The persona is the mask we wear for the world. It is the version of ourselves we show publicly. The confident professional, the strong friend, the person who has it all together, the one who doesn't need anyone, the one who is always okay. We spend years building this mask, sometimes decades, and it works. It protects us. It earns us respect, approval, love of a surface kind. But then, real love arrives, and real love does not care about the persona. Real love wants to get behind the mask. It wants to see the real face. And for many people, that is the most frightening thing imaginable. Because they have been wearing the mask for so long, they have forgotten what's underneath, or worse, they remember exactly what's underneath, and they are ashamed of it. Jung said, "The persona is a kind of mask designed on one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. So when you love someone, truly love them, you are, without even trying to, asking them to take the mask off. You are asking them to be real, and that is an enormous request. Not because you asked it badly, but because they have never done it before. Think about the people in your life who seem to have everything figured out. The ones who always seem strong, always in control, never vulnerable. Now think about how they behave when someone gets too close. Do they shut down? Do they get distant and cold? Do they suddenly become too busy? That is not coincidence. That is the persona protecting itself. Because if you get too close, you might see who they really are beneath the performance. And they are not sure that person is worth loving. That's the painful truth at the heart of this. The distance is not about you. It's about their deep, deep fear that if you truly see them, you will leave. So they leave first. Or they keep just enough distance to make sure the real reveal never happens. They love you. They want you close, but they are terrified that close will break something. I want to stop here and say something directly to you. If you are watching this because there is someone in your life doing this to you, please hear me. This is not a reflection of your worth. This is not you being too much or not enough. This is a person in psychological pain, trying to love you with a capacity they have not yet developed. That does not mean you have to wait forever. That does not mean you have to accept unavailability as love. But it does mean this is not about you being unlovable. It is about them being afraid to be known. That distinction matters enormously. This third reason is perhaps the most poetic and the most heartbreaking of all of them. Jung talked about something he called the anima and the animus. In simple terms, Jung believed that inside every man there lives a feminine soul. He called it the anima. And inside every woman there lives a masculine soul. He called it the animus. These inner figures represent our deepest longing, our ideal, our dream of what love could be. We build them from our childhood, from our first experiences of tenderness or pain, from the stories we heard, from the love we received or didn't receive. And then, one day, we meet someone who seems to match that inner figure, someone who seems to embody everything we have always longed for. And the feeling is electric, magnetic, overwhelming. People call it falling in love. Jung would call it projection. Because what you are actually feeling in that initial rush of overwhelming love is yourself. You are seeing your own deepest desires and longings reflected back at you through another person. Now, here is where it gets complicated. When someone projects their anima or animus onto you, meaning when they see in you everything they have always dreamed of, it creates an almost unbearable pressure. Because the person they are falling for is not entirely you. It is you plus everything they have ever wanted. And somewhere in them, they know this. They know that no real human being can hold all of that forever. They know that eventually, you will disappoint them. Not because you are bad, but because you are human. And so they stay away. Not because they don't love you, but because loving you completely means eventually losing the dream they've built around you. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Transformation is beautiful. But transformation also means the old self dies. And sometimes, people are not ready to let the old self die, even when the old self is lonely, even when the old self is suffering. Because at least the old self is familiar. The familiar pain feels safer than the unfamiliar joy. That's the paradox of the anima and animus dynamic. Let me make this practical. Have you ever been with someone who seemed absolutely taken by you at first, almost obsessively so, and then suddenly became distant or cold, like the feelings were too much and they needed to dial back? That was likely an anima or animus projection beginning to crack. They were not pulling away from you. They were pulling away from the weight of their own expectations. They were afraid of the moment when you would become fully human to them, flawed, real, and wonderful, rather than the dream they had built. And tragically, the moment you become fully human to someone is exactly the moment real love becomes possible. But getting there requires them to let go of the dream. And not everyone is brave enough to do that. Now we come to what might be the most important concept in all of Jungian psychology. Jung called it individuation. Individuation is the process by which a person becomes fully themselves, not the self their parents wanted, not the self their culture approved of, not the self they performed for the world. The real self, the whole self, the integrated self. Jung believed this was the deepest purpose of human life, and he also believed it was not easy. Individuation requires a person to do the hard work of facing their shadow, dismantling their persona, integrating their anima or animus, and slowly, painfully, becoming whole. Now here is why this matters for love, when a person is in the middle of that process, which can last years, sometimes an entire lifetime. They may not be available for deep relationship, not because they don't want love, but because the inner work demands so much of their energy that they have very little left to give outward. It's like building a house from the inside out. The construction is happening. It's real. It's serious. But you can't have guests over while the walls are being rebuilt. Someone in the middle of individuation may feel deeply in love with you. They may know you are extraordinary. They may lie awake at night thinking about you, but they cannot fully show up because they are not yet fully formed. They are still becoming the person who is capable of receiving and giving the love they feel. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But privilege doesn't mean easy, and it doesn't mean quick. This is why, sometimes, the person who loves you and stays away is not broken. They are not playing games. They are doing the hardest thing a human being can do. They are growing, and growth, real growth, is often a solitary journey. The question for you is, are you willing to wait for someone who is still becoming themselves? And if you are, what does healthy waiting look like for you? There is no wrong answer. But the answer matters, because you too are on your own individuation journey, and your wholeness should never be put on hold for someone else's. The fifth reason Jung helps us understand is perhaps the most emotionally raw of all. And to explain it, I need to connect Jung's ideas with something that psychologists discovered after Jung, but that is completely rooted in Jungian thinking. It's called attachment theory. Now, Jung didn't use this term himself, but his work on the unconscious, on early childhood wounds, and on the mother and father complexes laid the foundation for everything we now know about attachment. Here is the simple version. How we were loved, or not loved, as children becomes the blueprint for how we experience love as adults. If your caregivers were consistent, warm, and present, you likely grew up with what we call secure attachment. You feel safe in love, you trust, you open up. But if your caregivers were inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, sometimes absent, you may have developed what we call anxious attachment. Love feels like a constant chase. You overgive. You fear abandonment. And if your caregivers were emotionally unavailable or even hurtful, you may have developed avoidant attachment. Love feels dangerous. Closeness feels like a trap. Now, what does the avoidantly attached person do when they fall in love? They stay away. They do exactly what we've been talking about. Not because love doesn't feel good, but because somewhere deep in their nervous system, in a place that formed before they could speak, love got associated with pain. Jung talked about what he called the mother complex and the father complex. These deep, unconscious patterns formed in our earliest relationships that follow us into every intimate connection we ever make. The child who was loved and then suddenly lost that love through death or divorce, or simply a parent who shut down emotionally, carries that wound into adulthood. And when they find someone who makes them feel the way they felt in those beautiful early moments, the unconscious says, "Warning, this is where it hurt before." And they pull away. Not because the love isn't real, because the love is very real. And the last time something felt this real, it was taken away. This is the heartbreaking truth about avoidant love. The more someone means to them, the more they pull away. The scale is reversed. Ordinary attraction, they can handle it. Deep, soul-level love, that is exactly what triggers the oldest wound. So if someone is pulling away from you in a way that seems to intensify as feelings grow, please understand this. You are not doing anything wrong. You may be doing everything right. And that is what frightens them most. The sixth and final reason is one of Jung's most sophisticated ideas. He called it the transcendent function. Now, don't be put off by the complicated name. The idea itself is actually beautiful. Jung observed that the human psyche is always holding opposites in tension: strength and vulnerability, desire and fear, the need for connection and the need for solitude, the longing to be known and the terror of being seen. Mature psychological health, what Jung was pointing toward, means learning to hold both sides at once, not choosing one and destroying the other, but sitting in the tension, tolerating the discomfort, and allowing something new to emerge from that tension. He called the result the transcendent function, the capacity to transcend the either-or and find a third way. Now in love, a person who loves you and stays away is stuck in the tension of, I want you desperately, and getting close to you terrifies me. These two truths feel like they cannot coexist, and they haven't yet found the transcendent function, the capacity to hold both truths and move forward anyway. They haven't yet learned that you can love deeply and be afraid, that you can be vulnerable and be strong, that getting close to someone doesn't mean losing yourself, that being known doesn't mean being destroyed, till they find that transcendent capacity, that ability to sit with the paradox. They will keep oscillating, hot and cold, close and distant, open and shut, because they haven't yet found the third way. Okay, we've gone deep today. We've talked about the shadow, the persona, the anima and animus, individuation, attachment wounds, the transcendent function. And I want to bring all of this back to you, to the real, living, breathing, feeling person watching this video, because information without application is just entertainment. So here is what I want you to take from today. Number 1, stop making their distance about your worth. If someone who loves you is pulling away, the natural human instinct is to ask, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Jung would say. That question is the wrong question. The right question is, what are they afraid to face within themselves? Their distance is a map of their wounds, not a verdict on your value. Number 2, you cannot heal someone else's shadow for them. This is one of the most important things I can tell you. You can be patient, you can be loving, you can be present, but you cannot drag someone else through their own psychological growth. Individuation is a solo journey. You can walk beside someone, but you cannot carry them. Number 3, your love for them does not obligate you to wait indefinitely. This is something Jung understood deeply, that love for another person and love for yourself must coexist. If someone is not available, not emotionally present, not showing up, not growing toward you, you are allowed to make decisions about your own life. Love does not mean martyrdom. Love for yourself is not betrayal of love for them. Number 4, look at your own patterns. Here is the part that takes courage. Ask yourself honestly, am I attracted to unavailable people because there's a part of me that is also afraid of true closeness? Jung would never allow us to analyze others, without turning the lens on ourselves. Sometimes we choose people who stay away, because something in us chooses a love that feels familiar, even if that familiar feeling comes from an old wound. This is not blame. This is awareness. And awareness is where everything begins to change. Number 5, real love requires courage from both people. The most beautiful thing Jung ever said about love, and I want to leave you with this, is this idea that love is not something that happens to you. Love is something you choose, not once, but every day. It requires the courage to be seen, the courage to stay when your instinct says run, the courage to let the mask come off. And sometimes, the most loving thing we can do for someone who loves us and stays away is to show them, by example, what it looks like to be brave, to stay open, to love without performance, to stand in your own truth, because that, more than anything, might be the mirror they need to finally find their way forward. Love is the most psychological experience a human being can have. It pulls up everything we have buried. It lights up everything we have hidden. It challenges every mask we have built. And when someone who loves you deeply stays away from you, they are not broken. They are afraid of the mirror, afraid of the mask coming off, afraid of losing the dream, afraid of the old wound reopening, afraid of the man or woman they are still becoming, afraid of holding two opposite truths at the same time. Carl Jung spent his life telling us, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. That was true for him. It is true for the person who loves you and stays away. And gently, honestly, it may be true for you too. This is the work. Not just the work of loving someone else, but the work of becoming someone who can receive love fully, deeply, without running. That work is worth doing. You are worth that work. Thank you so much for watching. If this video gave you something today, a new way of seeing, a moment of peace, a feeling of being understood, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below. Tell me, which of these 6 reasons resonated with you the most? Because I read every single one. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Because every week we come back here to do this work together. Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." Let's keep waking up. See you in the next one.